Hi everyone, my name's Connor. Here with me, I have my sister Liz. I have her, she's here because she identifies in a certain way that I feel is applicable to the discussion that we're having. So, Liz, how would you identify?
I'm a gay woman.
Awesome. So, right off the bat, just out of curiosity, what would you say the difference between sex and gender is?
I think your sex is, I guess, your parts, but what's below the belt, uh, and gender is how you express that. Um, it's a lot more fluid and does not depend on the other.
Perfect. Um, And for the next thing, just out of curiosity, again, being a gay female, you are part of the LGBTQ community. I know that you have a lot of friends, or we share the same friends of that community. Out of curiosity, do you yourself or anyone that you know that's, again, within that culture, any issues or experiences within the healthcare system via treatment or experiences with doctors or the alike that was discriminatory or was a negative experience overall because of their orientation?
Um, Not personally. No, I've never had an issue with that. I have issue with personally. I have issue with confusion where if I'm at a doctor or a GYN and they ask if I'm sexually active, um, I say yes, and they not all the time, but most of the time they automatically start talking about men, and I'm like, oh no, it's not that. As for my friends who are queer or trans or anything like that, I again can't really think of anything off the top of my head, but I do know it's more of an issue for Iris. I have a friend in San Francisco. It's an issue for them to find a doctor that they trust. Like you'll go to doctors and it's like, okay, that's not going to work because it's a lot of things. You have to deal with how they might think about you, how they feel about you, and you have to kind of find where you're comfortable, and that's the most important part.
Okay, awesome. Well, that's all I need you for, and I'm good after that. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
So, moving on. The particular group that I'm going to be focusing on is going to be transgenders. As my sister mentioned, the difference between sex and gender is going to be sex is what you're anatomically endowed with. Females, breasts, vagina. Males, penises. So it's that anatomical identification. Gender is again going to be the how your society dictates you should be, whatever societal norms are. So men are tough, eat steak, chop wood, provide for the family. Females are more the caregivers for the children, take care of the house, things like that. Luckily, that ideal is changing, which is great. Sexual equality and everything of the sort. But that is in itself the gender roles is how society sees that particular sex. Moving on. So when it comes to receiving healthcare, especially again referring to transgender individuals, there are going to be some key issues that I feel can either result in a positive or negative experience. Uh, as the patient, as being a transgender patient, I would assume that at a certain level of respect, acknowledgement, and understanding is had from the physicians or from the healthcare administrator point of view, perspective, being showing that there is um a similarity or that they're allowed respect and everything's okay. Uh, on the other side of that, I feel like on the doctor side, there's a potential for uh, discrimination in the sense that perhaps they don't respect, they don't understand, or they don't allow transgender individuals to be a part of their practice. Uh, so, if we're thinking on the physician or the medical side of it, there has to be that acceptance, and so it needs to work on both sides. When it comes to biological differences and how that could cause some issues, is that again, Males and females are endowed with their certain anatomy. And again, dealing with a transgender individual, you're going to need to be able to say, okay, you're a female that identifies as a male, but we're going to need to treat you as a female in order to help you in the best way possible. So being able to get that common ground, that understanding right off the bat is going to be critical. Now, when it comes to the lack of gender-based understanding, acceptance, uniformity, if you will, there was a study conducted by Duke in 2019 that researched these disparities, these accidental discriminations. And what the study showed is that 1 in 5 females actually felt discriminated against when they're in the health, when they go receive health care in any way, shape, or form. Now, it is known biologically that males and females are different and more so than just their parts, that their way that they metabolize, their physiology, and all of the bodily functions are different, whether you're male or female. And that translates to different manifestations of diseases, viruses, and also the effect medications can have. So it is paramount that an understanding between, or a dissociation between males and females is made to allow for the most optimal care. Again, this study made by Duke showed that the majority of information out there is based off of male studies that is then placed onto females as a direct correlation when there is not one. So the lack of that understanding results in poorer outcomes for females because again, there's not as much studies for the females as there are for males. So that lack of gender understanding or the differences can result in major complications and discrimination at the end of it towards females. On the other side of it, men need to feel okay about going to the doctor. They have that machismo type of effect where they don't want to go because, hey, they're a man and they'll fight it off and it's okay. So, kind of changing that against societal norm that, hey, men don't go to the doctor and making it seem more okay to have regular yearly checkups and have it not be, frowned upon from the other guys and have that be okay to get that other side of the spectrum. When it comes to improving understanding, respect, and promoting that balance of care or the appropriate care for males and females, a couple key approaches I found that I thought would be very useful. First one is having a diverse healthcare team, diverse employees. This opens the door for education, for discussions between the employees of different ethnicities, different orientations that can open other people's eyes to their world, to their background, which will again improve that understanding, form that bridge between a heterosexual and a homosexual individual and bring them together to have that unity. Something known as substitution, where when a healthcare individual might feel like they're becoming biased when they're evaluating or asking questions, what they can do with substitution is they choose to now ask opposing questions. So if they're evaluating a male and they feel like they're becoming biased, they will now start to ask questions that maybe will be more directed towards the female, saying, do you feel safe at home, or things of that nature. So switching over the criteria to the other sex so you have a balance. Furthermore, as something like a checklist and guidelines. So it's no longer up to the healthcare professional to ask the questions. It's a set list of questions that you can ask every single patient that prevents any bias connotations or direction on the healthcare healthcare professional side. And the last thing is kind of open-ended questions. You want to ask questions that are going to make the patient, make the individual feel comfortable, feel like they have a voice, feel like they're not pigeonholed or boxed into what the therapist or what the doctors or the nurses priority is, but ask them questions like, what am I missing that is important to you? What are your concerns? And opening up that context to, hey, what's on your mind. Let's get your thoughts on the table. So you have, again, this unity, this respect, and it can promote the best possible outcome. Thank you very much.